This chapter of One Piece was intense. Gaban unleashed his secret haki and sacrificed himself. Gunko's backstory was revealed and EMU is on Elbaf. One Piece was on the cover of the magazine this week with Luffy, Chopper, and Sanji taking a joyride. The colors bed featured some of the Straw Hat, Lilith and Bonnie inside a maid cafe. This one has tons of charm and is really pleasant to look at. But on the back of Bonnie's tray, we see RIP, and whatever comes next is hidden by her arm. So whose death is being foreshadowed? Now back with Chapter 520, Ace's death was foreshadowed by Luffy's cards and his reaction to the bond just carved into one of God's knives. The Straw Hats, who were on the scene, were totally shocked. Nami was the only one of them who recognized the man. St. Summers fell on his back. Once Gaban landed with his axe in hand, the immortal Celestial was writhing in agony. His usual affection towards pain was nowhere to be seen. Usopp asked the old man why the hell his attack actually worked. He really wanted to know how the geezer pulled it off. But the fight wasn't over yet, and Gaban was rusty. After all, he's been in retirement mode for decades. Even so, his axe spun, and Gaban made a furious rush. Desperate to defend, St. Summers called upon his briar bearer. Gaban's act met the reinforced thorns with a mighty haki collision. St. Summers wasted no time and created as much distance between them as he could. Huffing, he asked a legendary mountain eater what the hell he was doing on Elbaf. Gaban smiled, but he wasn't about to give a straight answer. Instead, his axe did the talking, and by comparison, the Saint's bat of a blade was way too... Nami told the others that she met the powerhouse. Inside the giant castle, Usopp was in disbelief. Nami explained, even Luffy and Zoro were totally overwhelmed by the guy, not to mention the fact that he's Colin's father. Usopp really couldn't believe anything in this chapter. Robin recognized the legendary pirate's name, so of course a veteran like Jinbei knew all about, being Rayleigh's equal, the left hand of the Pirate King. Brook never expected such a person to be in the land of giants. So contrary to what we figured in the previous chapter, Brook can in fact speak despite being mummified. Meanwhile, inside of Saul's beard, Chopper realized that Gaban's attacks were effective and wanted to know why that was. Robin couldn't move on account of the thorns around her. Still, she offered to use her powers to help out. Jinbei told her not, since the man's thorns were a terrible matchup against. Hand-to-hand style, returning to the battle, St. Summers unleashed a rush of thorns. He followed this up with Hell of the Crimson Lotus, which littered the floor with thorns. His plan was to give Gaban nowhere to go. Scopper let the dagger of the Holy Land know that he was in a bit of a hurry. Around himself, shredding every thorny tendril that came too close. Dismayed and desperate, seeing Summer, resorted to his sword yet again and beckoned the pirate to come at him. And Gohan did just that with a move called Futen Rock. He cleaved through St. Summers from the shoulders up. Apparently, the name of this move may be a play on Etenraku, music brought, which is a form of classical Japanese music. Interesting, these melodies used to be played in the presence of nobility, while in modern times they're mostly played at wedding, which points to the fact that Gaban went from the king of the pirates to being a married family man, and it looked saying Summers will be returning to his family in a doggy bag. There were still dangerous thorns on the ground. So Gaban uses axe to vault himself elsewhere. He was back to running before the knight's body could hit the ground. The Straw Hats couldn't feel their jaws at this point. The old man actually took the immortal monster down in a flash. But wait, do my eyes deceive me? Is that Chopper out of mascot mode? Emerging from Saul's beard, even the Straw Hats were confused. Chopper took a bit of damage from the spike growth, but I'd like to believe that that's more from movement-related joint pain, because finally Chopper is doing something useful. The Bond's ability to cut someone immortal and stop the regeneration was critical information that they could not afford to let. As the only member of the crew who can actually move, it's all up to Chopper to learn what he can. Back at the Walrus School, the math teacher, Blade, was fretting while all the other students continued to. So the duration of St. Killingham, sleep inducement is based on their proximity to. The mythical Zoan user praised Onge for a job well done. The Walrus School was now covered in flame. Say Killingham was quite satisfied. Ange could only cry in silence as she watched the fire. Despite his station, the knight was surprisingly reasonable. He decided to work in Ange's stead for what remained. He lit an arrow and shot it, only adding to the woman's pain. The owl library was now ablaze, and the Celestial laughed at the... Robin spotted the fire and was hurt by her own helplessness, and Saul continued to silently sob. Elsewhere, the gathered giants comforted a crying elder Jaw. He was further devastated by his memory. Other ancestors create a reference towards history and what it represents. St. Killingham contacted Gunko and let her know that the ignition was successful. As a result, Gunko instructed Runja to return to the seeing the child's pained expression. Gunko wondered if it was truly so hard to display a bit of joy. To that, the little girl shouted an apology. that was heard over the communicator. She apologized to everyone for being alive, because the cost of her life was the burning of their way of life. The other kids told her to stop talking like that. She continued to apologize, but they refused her words, and the giant warrior pirates were still on their way. Now, as a reminder, Biblo, the ancient giant owl and chief librarian, is still inside of the library. God's knights have no idea that he exists. Instead of destroying the books directly, the library was set on fire from a distance. Biblo has the Iku Iku no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows him to gigantify objects within his territory. If Elder Jal Rule recalls their ancestors, holding history in high regard, then I'd like to imagine the mysterious old owl, put in charge of their oldest record, would be good at preservation, if nothing else. So while the place is on fire, Biblo can just fly off with the tiny book. Losing the buildings is sad, but this is Elbaf. They have an abundance of building material, the mightiest workforce in the world, and plenty of passion. Hell Road made a sustainable kingdom out of Legos, and he's just a navigator. They can add these buildings back up and running before the other kids even wake up. Side note, the cover page that foreshadowed Ace's death also seems to have foreshadowed Biblo. We see Zoro is wearing a shirt with an owl on it, and while having unique outfits is typical for a color, and they all do have those here, Zoro is the only one of them wearing something that he doesn't. Usually, not only does Biblo wear glasses, but notably so does Zoro's outfit for this art. More than that, the text that accompanies the owl on his shirt, Bukudo Daruma, not to be confused with the CP08. Bukudo refers to the Ural owl, while Adamaruma is a Zen symbol of good luck and perseverance. So pretty much don't worry about it. The owl will take care. Zoro happens to be the only one of them who is totally calm, disengaged, and is even perched in a tree. He spits a bunch of tiny seeds out, like how we can expect Biblo to offload the tiny seeds of knowledge contained in the books anyway. From there, Gaban began closing in on Gunko's location. She was startled by his approach culture, history children, and even military mind. Gaban didn't believe they had the right to take any of those things. Away from Elbaf, Gunko recognized the Pirate King's left. She reminded him that resistance would result in the death of the hostages, looking over their shoulders.